Okay, so I'm starting on a separate sheet of paper, and I'm talking about transformation rules. The order I write this in is very important. Okay, so I have horizontal transformations, which are left and right transformations. These all happen inside parentheses. Then I have vertical transformations, which all go up and down. And these are all outside parentheses. Okay. Horizontal transformations are going to follow in the order that I write them in. So you're looking for shifts. A shift is how I move either to the right or to the left. Notice that the -1 moved right and the +1 moved left. This has to do with being like within a mirror or reflectioning and stuff like that. I will do something live where I kind of point in a certain direction or where I have you mirror or mimic me. We'll see how that goes. This is a very hard lesson to teach virtually. So hopefully you understand it. Okay, so since it's an X and we always do the opposite of our X, we're going to go in the opposite direction we believe it's going to go in. A -1 is actually going to go in the right direction. It's going to go to the right. Then we have what are called stretches or shrinks, or like stretches and compressions. Okay, and I'm not going to write much about that right now because we're going to come back to those after we've mastered some of the easier ones. And then our last thing that we can do horizontally is we can flip. This flips over the y-axis, which causes it to flip left and right. The mathematical word for this is called a reflection. Okay, so you'll hear me use the word flip quite often. I think that you do better when the vocabulary matches your vocabulary in normal everyday situations. But you'll often see when it's written out in the book or when it's written out on certain websites or when it comes to when you're CASP testing, it's going to say reflect. And you've got that. You understand. You can do it. Then there's vertical movements. And these vertical movements are actually not going to follow in the order I write them in. They're going to follow in PEMDAS order. So I'm going to go ahead and write PEMDAS here. But just like I did on the left-hand side, I'm going to have a -1, except this time the -1 is going to be outside of the parentheses. The -1 does exactly what you think it does, and it goes down. A +1 on the outside goes up. Ugh. And then we have these that are stretches and shrinks. And we'll talk about those after we get good at the other 4. And then I have the negative on the outside that also reflects. I'm going to use that word reflects here so that you see it written. And it reflects over the x-axis. The x-axis looks like this, which results in an up and down. Okay, so those are our rules. You are going to have all of these rules memorized. Okay? You can't do anything without these rules. If you don't understand how to use them, you're not going to be able to do anything in this section. Okay? So, I gave you some time in class to rewrite these, to talk about them, so on and so forth. And now what I'm going to do is I'm moving on to page 102. So you're flipping through a bunch of pages. What's happening is we're putting the book in an order that kind of makes a little more sense, because those parent graphs go really well with these transformations. Okay. So you can see right here, this is my absolute value graph. And my absolute value graph has moved to the left and down, and it's actually become skinnier. So we're going to put left 2, down 3, and for right now we're just going to use the word skinny to describe this. Okay. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to tell me that this is an absolute value graph by putting absolute value of x. I would like you to show me that it moves to the left by putting a +2 there. It also moves down 3. And then we're not going to touch that skinny right now. We're going to leave that skinny for later on. So we're kind of going to learn about that up and down movement right now really quickly, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. So on B, this red line is my original. And I want you to notice that this line is going upwards. It moves to this blue line. And I want you to notice that the blue line is going downwards. That means that this has flipped. We often refer to this because it's a line as y equals mx plus b. Many of you can find the equation of this line without doing transformations, but we're going to talk about them. This point has moved down 2. And it has flipped. Okay. That means I'm going to get x minus 2 on the outside, and I'm going to get a negative in front of the x to represent the flip. So on C, my original is the blue. I move to the red. I'm going to do the rest of these in class kind of live to make sure that I know you understood it. But I'm going to move forward to page 103 and lecture a little bit there. On page 103, instead, it gives you the equation and is asking you for a description. So I think this page is a little easier than the page before, but it also tests your knowledge with that placement of everything. So if I have a +2 on an inside, that means it moved either to the left or right because it's on the inside. Since it's doing something to my x, I always want the opposite of my x. It moves to the left too. I'm going to stick with that type of transformation right now. So B, I don't see any parentheses. I don't see anything inside. There's no left or right movement there. I'm going to go to C. C, this square root acts as parentheses. It is inside the square root. That's like being inside parentheses. Just like over here, it was inside absolute values. Okay. And this has a +4 on the inside. If it's inside, it's doing something to my x, and I'm always looking for the opposite of my x. So it moves left 4. I'm going to keep going all the way through these, and I will give you, in our live session, some extra ones to do with me. So then on D, I'm looking for, is there anything inside the parentheses? There is. There's this +2. Since it's happening inside the parentheses, it's happening to my x. I always want the opposite of my x. I am moving left here. I'm moving left 2. Okay, still going. Now I'm on E. On E, inside my parentheses, I have a -3. It is happening to my x. I'm always looking for the opposite. It goes right 3. Notice that the negatives move right, the positives move left. Okay. Last, I have that cube root there. That cube root moves left 2 because of the +2 on the inside. Okay. I'm following the order of those transformation rules every single time. So what I want you to do is I want you to, at the top of this page, go write those transformation rules down again. -1 f of x plus 1, 2 f of x, f of 2x, f of 1/2 x, and then f of -x. This moves right, that moves left. We're still not quite sure about these. I haven't taught them yet. And this one flips over y, which causes a left-right movement. Okay? So, I went and I looked for my first set. That's my first step to look for. I did all of that. Now I'm looking for my second step. And I don't see that happening anywhere here. So I'm looking for my third step. Do I have any negatives happening inside the parentheses or inside the absolute values or inside those roots? And I don't. I do have negatives, but they're happening in outside places. So, now we need to write down vertical shifts, or vertical transformations. That is the f of x minus 1, f of x plus 1, 2 f of x, 1/2 f of x, and negative f of x. Okay? And these ones happen in a special order. They happen in PEMDAS order. Okay? So, These ones I'm actually looking to do from the bottom up. So I'm looking for, is there a reflection anywhere? And in A, I don't see any. In B, I do. So this flips over X, which causes an up and down. In C, I don't see one. In D, I see a negative. Flips over X, which causes an up and down. In E, I don't see anything. In F, I don't see anything. Okay, so I've done that now. So now I'm looking for, did I have to multiply anything out? Nope, don't see any of those anywhere. So you can see kind of why I've skipped these two. For right now, we're holding off on them. Then I'm looking for vertical. Looking for, did I add or subtract on the outside at all? Right here, I've got that -4. Oh, and that moves down 4. And I missed right here. Look, there's a 2 right there. There is a stretch there. So we're going to say that there is a stretch. That's vertical. Okay. We're not quite sure what that vertical stretch means yet, but we'll get there. I see a -2 on the outside. That means it moves down 2. I see a +2 on the outside. That means it moves up 2. I see a +1 on the outside. That means it moves up 1. Don't see anything happening in E on the outside. I'm all good. I see a +2 on the outside on F. That means it moves up 2. Okay. I have listed these in the proper order, so make sure your order matches mine. The order is important because we're going to start moving them around ourselves, and you'll notice that if you go in a different order, you're going to get a different answer. Okay. My guess is that that's probably enough lecture for today, and that we just need to practice with those things. So I'm going to pull you back into a live session and give you a bunch of different practice problems for us to do on separate pages, and then we'll get to the mathematics of transforming the next class we have.